What are your thoughts on an artist quitting their day job to pursue the quote dreams in Hollywood?
Be prepared. Have a savings account. Do not quit until you have a savings account. However, what a lot of people don't know about Los Angeles is it's not the kind of place, unless you're in an industry that can transfer your job, like literally. You know, some people can, well, I'm working in the in Indianapolis office, and I'll just ask them to transfer me to the Los Angeles office. That's not in every industry, but in some industries that exists. If you can do that instead of quitting your job, right? Get transferred to that office. Or if you have a skill, like let's say you're a paramedic, then apply for some paramedic jobs out here so that you can have something to do while you're writing on the side. I would not because writers, until you actually have your screenplays ready and you're going into meetings and taking meetings with people, there's nothing specific that you're doing in the middle of the day. So you can write at night. Like you're not like an actor where it's like, I have to have a night job because auditions are during the day, right? So no matter where you are in your acting life, if you come out to LA, you probably have to get a night kind of job or a part-time kind of job because you need to be available during the day, period. Writers, you don't necessarily need that right off the bat, especially if you've never written anything or you don't have enough samples or anything yet, then you won't need that. So it's okay for you to have a job. You just now have to be disciplined enough to write at night or write on the weekends, even if you just give yourself an hour a day, however long it's gonna take. If you do decide to quit and you say, well, I'll just get a job out in Los Angeles, please note what a lot of people don't know about LA is they're not gonna hire you unless you're here, if you're getting hired into this industry. So if you're saying, well, I'm gonna be an assistant or I'm gonna be a PA or I'm gonna, I don't know, do whatever it is you plan to do in this industry, if they call you for an interview, 9 times out of 10, it's because they want you. They might say, see you tomorrow. And you're in Indianapolis. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a big risk, but you got to come out here first. Then you'll be able to get the jobs a little bit more easily. Not to saying that it is easy, but more easily than it would be when you're away, because again, you're meeting people, you're around people, they can introduce you to people. And when they say, hey, can you come in for this interview? Or hey, can you start tomorrow? You can say yes, because you're physically here. I have seen, and it has happened to me, where I have been passed over because they're like, can you start tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm moving, next month. And that's because people think like other industries, well, once I get the job, they'll give me a start date. It'll probably be 2 weeks from now or a month from now. And it's like, no, that's not how this industry works. Like they're on set right now. They need someone to come in right now. So it's not one of those things where you can kind of be set up already before you get here. You got to get here and then apply. So that's why having a savings account is a really big deal. It's also very expensive to live out here. So unless you have a roommate or somebody like that, be prepared. It's very, very expensive. So if you know that this is somewhere you want to come, at least give yourself a year or however long you need to get your savings account up before you get out here.
You started your courses, your online courses, partly out of necessity too, right? You created your own job for yourself.
Yeah, I did. Actually, I did. So I used to be a creative executive a decade ago. And I left that job to be a performing artist so I could travel the world. So I got to go to 19 countries, 48 states, had a great time. But within that decade, the industry continues on. So even though I was still working with writers to help on their screenplays, because they were contacting me, I wasn't contacting them, but people knew I did that. So they were, hey, can you read this? Hey, can you see this? So eventually I made it into my side hustle. When you're a performing artist, you're contract to contract. So when you're out of contract, you still have to be making money some kind of way. So I kind of used to do that on the side. So when I moved back here, I figured it'd probably take me a little while before I can get back into the industry and people know me and I can get where I need to go. So in the meantime, in between time, I got to be able to be making some money. So why not take this skill that I have, and people have been asking me to do this, and turn it into my day job. And so here I am a year and a couple of months later, and this is still what I do full time every day.
That's great.
Thank you.
And do you think back to what if someone had offered you some easy job for the money, and then maybe you would have taken it for the paycheck, and then you wouldn't have developed this and your website?
I don't think I would have done that this time around. When I came to LA this time, I've lived in LA 3 times. When I came to LA this time, I knew exactly what it is that I wanted. And I knew what the path was to get there. So I knew that I may have to take a job I didn't like in order to get into the right room. But if I thought that job wasn't going to get me into the right room, I would not have taken it. Would not have taken it. However, actually having the experience that I have is what keeps me out of the rooms. I'm usually seen as overqualified. So as much as I send out my resume, I don't have very many people who actually call me in for interviews. And for the jobs that I should be able to apply to, those are the who do you know kind of jobs. And so because I was gone for a decade, then I don't have access to those jobs either. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle. I'm overqualified for these jobs and I don't have access to these jobs. Okay, fine. So I'll start my own job. And here I am.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people probably would think, oh, that's a good problem to have, but it's actually holds a lot of people back. Overqualified, overeducated. I've never had that problem, but I know that other people have, and it can really hinder what you do.
Yeah, definitely. So I could have let that get me down and, move back to Texas, etc. But because I, at this age, know what my strengths and weaknesses are, and I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, this is what I do well. So I'm going to do this for myself until at some point someone realizes, oh, you have the exact skill that we're looking for in this particular position. And if that's something I'm interested in doing, I'll do it. And if it's not, I won't. I'll continue to do what I'm doing now. I've definitely, during that time of being a performing artist and having to take side jobs and random jobs, I've done enough things that I don't want to do. I've had my share of it. I'm done with that. So now it's about being on track.
Well, that was my last question, and just the worst job, and I'm sure you won't mention the name, but then what happened and how did you leave it?
Oh no, it was just, I actually ended up writing a screenplay about it that placed in a couple of competitions last year.
Oh.
But I was a sample lady, like in the grocery store.
Oh yeah, I did that too.
Yeah, and people always assume that those people work there. And it's like, no, I didn't work there. I was hired by a company to come in and do it.
Yeah.
And it was really frustrating because people didn't want my samples. They just kept asking me questions about stuff in the store, and I didn't know anything about stuff in the store. So my screenplay that I wrote ended up being about, but what if this was the only thing you had? Like for me, sure, I could have, again, been a teacher. Right? So I actually became a substitute teacher. So I still ended up doing what I had been fighting all that time. But I was like, as a substitute teacher, you get to at least choose your own schedule, right? You can decide to go in or you can decide not to. So I did that. But I was like, but what if there was a person and all they had was this sample lady job? Like, that's it.
Right.
Now what's their story? So I ended up writing a screenplay called Truffle Sauce because that's what I was selling.
Oh. Did you find that everybody told you like their life story, like their secrets?
Oh yeah, they wanted to come and talk to me and do everything but taste the truffle sauce.
Thank you. That's what, yeah. They would say, I don't want this. Wait, do you work at Costco too on the weekend? No, I don't. No. But then I would end up hearing very personal stories, and they just, because they knew I was safe. I was a stranger they probably would never see me again. And it was actually really interesting to interact with people.
It was the most frustrating job for me. I was like, I'll never do this again, even though I probably did it like 1 or 2 more times. I think I did it like 3 times. And I was like, okay, I'm done. Guess I'll just substitute teach.
The health department threw away my samples. I don't know. It was she must have been like new or looking for a higher position.
Yeah.
She came in, looked at other stuff, and then she saw my table and just said, throw them in the trash.
Wow.
She said they'd been sitting out too long. Maybe she did me a favor. So
yeah, possibly.